Good morning for AM 1340 and 99.5 FM WGRV. I'm Reid Seals, and I'm here for the monthly interview with Greene County Mayor Kevin Morrison. Good morning, Kevin.
Good morning, Reid.
First off, what does it mean now that Commissioner Clifford Bryant has been censured?
Well, a censure, Reid, is a public rebuke, basically saying that as a body or as a group, we don't necessarily agree with your position or we don't agree with what you're doing. In checking with CTAS, and there were a number, for instance, of commissioners as well as people in the community upset with Doc over the fact that he had fairly significant unpaid income taxes, unpaid student loans, owed the county and the city for personal property taxes, which last night I think was put to bed that it is in the state constitution, that is constitutional, and knowing, for instance, that we can't, or he can't be removed from office. He was duly elected by the people of the 3rd District. The body wanted to do something as a whole to send a message to the people that elected them that we don't agree with this behavior, we don't agree with this position, and again, it's essentially a public rebuke, obviously published in the media and for all to read about. So that's the extent of that.
And what is the next step for the election office building since it wasn't voted to donate to Walter State? And when will renovations begin on the CCU building?
Yeah, the election building resolution last night was sort of somewhat of a surprise, given at the last meeting when we purchased the CCU building, it was pretty much an overwhelming consent, at least from a majority of the commissioners, that we weren't going to give that building away, essentially like the old Laughlin Hospital building had been. I know in doing research, the county had paid somewhere in the neighborhood of $650,000 for the old Laughlin Hospital building, and then essentially give it away. I mean, that's a good public gesture, I suppose. But the overwhelming sentiment with the election building was that we weren't going to go down that road again. That any proceeds that were gathered from the sale of the current election building would be applied to the cost of the CCU building and offset that way, or the renovations that are needed, and there are a few renovations that are needed at the CCU building to make it, conform to what our purpose is going to be up there, to use to offset those costs as well. So that resolution failed. The next steps for the current election building obviously are to renovate the CCU, move the election and EMA over to the CCU building, and then process the current election building for sale. There is a number of problems with it. That's been noted already. The roof obviously was something that was of paramount importance to be replaced if it was going to remain a viable county building. There was some plumbing work that needed to be done. Obviously, if the public was going to be continuing to access that building, an ADA bathroom was going to have to be added and needed. Some electrical wiring was going to have to be moved in that process. And in a building of that age, you never know what other types of problems you're going to encounter when you start those types of renovations. Hopefully they wouldn't be structural. We wouldn't find anything, for instance, like asbestos, but you never know in that situation with a building that old, in need of those repairs. But the plan will be to process it for sale. It could be used, I guess, in the event that it doesn't sell, for county storage in some capacity. But there are a number of people that have at least expressed interest informally that they might be interested in the old election office building.
Tell me about the Kronos Time Keeping System and how it can help the county.
This was a great win for the county last night. The Kronos Time Keeping System is a very analytical, complete timekeeping system for our employees. Now there is a subscription cost that goes along with that. It is a system currently that the city of Greeneville uses for their employees and departments. There's also a number of other counties and entities around us that use the Kronos Time Keeping System. Given the fact that we have a number of departments that are on different schedules, different shifts, this computer-aided system figures with analytics and makes it fair for everybody. It also adds, which we've not had heretofore, an element of responsibility and accountability, not only to the employee but to the department heads. This thing has a mobile application, for instance, for the sheriff's department and other employees on call, like EMS, that they can actually clock in remotely with a cell phone or with a computer off-site. It has a chip or reader system in it that will show, for instance, where that employee's physical location is when they do so, which would be the responsibility of the supervisor to oversee. But it adds an element of accountability, and to the extent that I know, this would have saved us tremendously. For instance, had we had this system just a handful of years ago, in perhaps avoiding, for instance, a lawsuit with one of our departments. It adds an element of accountability for the employee. Most of the problems that we have had and encountered in the past have been due to erroneous or error-filled timesheets, some deliberately, some not. But it also protects the employee in that regard too, because then if they're doing what they're supposed to, clocking in as they're supposed to, and there's a number of ways to do that. It's done with a physical clock. It's done with a computer. It can be done with an application on your telephone. As long as they're doing what they're supposed to, then they're protected themselves. They're given a record of that, and that can be used to support, for instance, their case or their grievance. And it also makes it fair across the board when it comes to accruing time for vacation, sick time, retirement, that sorts of thing. And it adjusts to the specifics of each department. For instance, time and a half, overtime, it figures all of that. We were welcome to find out, for instance, that the Kronos people said that they could figure time for the sheriff's department that's paid for with a grant. So there's a number of applications that we're looking forward to applying, and think this will be really good for Greene County, its employees, and most especially the taxpayers who expect efficiency and accountability.
And let's finish up with this question. What is the next step with the town of Greeneville and their grievance with the tax increase?
The tax notices, of course, at the last county commission meeting, you will note that the commission adjusted the tax rate to go back and create an inside rate of less than 3 cents of what the county was paying on the outside. When that was completed, and the tax notices went out August 31st, that basically completed the cycle. So now we have an outside rate of 201 and an inside rate of 198. Approximately $275,000 to $300,000 that the county residents are paying on those on the education debt service for the county schools that the city is not paying. That, in conjunction with the account that we already have that had accumulated approximately $1.9 million of the county residents' payments from the old rate, if you will. That, combined with the new rate and sales tax revenue, is what is being that we've already split with the city. I should add that. I almost left that out, but the statute does say that we can use sales tax that we've already split with the city of Greeneville, and as our portion to help us pay those bills. So essentially, it's like your household, you using, different forms or different streams of revenue in order to pay your bills. So what Greene County has done is they're using a myriad of ways to pay our bills, specifically as it relates to education debt service. Those tax notices have gone out, and we're off and into a new budget year.
Well, that was Greene County Mayor Kevin Morrison here for his monthly interview. I'm Reid Seals. He'll be back next month after the next commission meeting. This is AM 1340 and 99.5 FM WGRV. And once again, I'm Reid Seals.